last story for tonight actually has to do with the topic that I've been trying to get real numbers on and having a huge issue with. That is of video game addiction. I believe it's real. Does that mean that games need to be regulated in any meaningful way because of it, though? No. And we can't be. This is one of the few times I am going to use the Bidenism. We can't be afraid of facts in this case. If some people can become addicted to it, then by all means, that means no legislation need be drafted because of it. It does, however, mean that these people need treatment. They need a course of treatment. They need something to help them rather than us sweeping it under the rug because we feel that it's a threat or an affront to video games and gaming, and it's not. But getting clear numbers, finding out how prevalent of an issue this is extremely difficult to do. Not to mention the fact that I don't prescribe that it is something that is as big of a threat as people want to make it, because then this will become as prevalent as ADD diagnoses and sex addiction diagnoses. And I don't agree with that, because I do agree that some of these are overly diagnosed and the wrong things are being done in the name of these things. Meanwhile, the people who are actually suffering from it are not getting the kinds of treatments they need. Science isn't sure yet if gaming addiction is a real mental disorder. Now, again, this is a long article. I'm going to read tidbits of it, and then you're just going to have to read the rest on your own. But it's worth reading. What is gaming addiction exactly? There is an easy answer to that question, but there's also naturally much debate on whether or not it is even a thing. Psychology can at times be an inexact science, and it seems as though there is always room for debate within the world. As of today, gaming addiction is not a condition for which your insurance company will reimburse mental health professionals who treat you for it. Part of why we need to have this talk. And that is because of the very definition of addiction is still in the process of evolving to the point to where problematic gaming could be included under its umbrella. And so in order to fully understand gaming addiction and the debate over its validity, we must start at the root of the term. In the grand scheme of time, addiction has only relatively recently become a medical concept. Before, doctors started saying that folks were addicted to opium less than 2 centuries ago. The word addiction meant something different. From that point, the scientists and doctors of the world took that word to mean a physical dependency on a substance. Even more recently, we, the normal, non-scientist humans, have come to use addiction within the context of behaviors. We find a thing we like to do. We partake in the thing more than other people do. Perhaps it's an perhaps to an emotionally unhealthy degree, and we call ourselves addicted to that activity, but that's not scientific. In 2010, the American Psychiatric Association revealed the first draft of a revision to its new edition of the Psychological Bible, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or DSM. Among those changes was a new category of disorders, behavioral addictions. Within that category, we would find a single disorder, gambling addiction. Behavioral addictions are still a very contentious issue, and that the category was even included in the proposed draft is a big step towards acceptance. Now this article goes on, but I'm not here to try to drone on, as part of the restart of this channel has been about. And I would really rather you guys read and absorbed this, for those of you who actually do read and absorb better through reading rather than through hearing. Link is, of course, down in the underbar. But I know some people whose lives, even marriages, are afflicted. Some of these people are more functional, and I think in some cases, some of the people involved who are kind of left out from it, while that is a valid feeling, I'm not trying to blame the victims in any way, sense, or form. Sometimes, though, some of them can exaggerate the traits of what's going on. But that doesn't mean that it's not necessarily going on. And it's a topic that gamers want nothing to do with. I know, because myself, I often wanted nothing to do with it. Addicted to gaming? What are you talking about? It's not like I spent all day playing Zelda instead of doing art projects. No, no. You know, I wouldn't classify myself as an addict, but I do know that I have a problem with balance. It has nothing to do with gaming, but gaming is one situation where I can get myself into trouble, but it's not the only situation. And it's realizing what my vices are, how far I should take them versus how far I am taking them, that makes all the difference in the world. And I have at times been that person. My ex, who was abusing me, and I'm not even going to use the fact that she was abusing me as an excuse for me using the games as an escape. Sure, it's probably part of what helped keep me sane, but was that necessarily right? Was that necessarily okay for her being the other part of this relationship? Even if she's abusing me, no, I'm sorry. That does not give me the right to ignore her, as I was starting to do with my gaming. But it's knowing that and recognizing that and fighting the battle of imbalance in my life that is making all the difference, and will make for me having a much more successful relationship with my current fiance, and will make all the difference in the world, because this won't be a point of contention between me and her. She deserves to have time with me. I equally deserve to have time alone, as does she with her hobbies. In which case, you know, there's going to be times where there's water that has to be tested, and I think every couple who's worth their salt has to go through that. It's finding out, well, how much alone time is too much for your man or your woman? How much is healthy, and realizing that you can't be together 24/7 as much as some people want to be. That's not healthy. That starts to actually hurt the relationship, and could be almost as hurtful as if you're always apart and he's always gaming and you're always sitting there bored off your mind just wanting to have time with him. But everything has to be about moderation. And both parties have to be willing to be open to communication. Because I know some do try, some wives do try with their husbands. And the husband just doesn't want to acknowledge it, doesn't want to hear it, and that's not right. That's not fair to her. Because some might be being overly dramatic, might be overly attention-seeking. Well, then there's something to that. There's a reason she's being that way, and maybe treating that reason will make her less inclined to do so. Make her happy. Make her happy where you have at least a couple hours a day to game that she cannot say otherwise about, unless it's an anniversary or an important engagement or something with your kids if you have kids. Obviously, everything within reason. But if you exceed that, and if you continue to exceed that, it's not her fault for being upset, and we can't act like we're butthurt gamers that, oh my gosh, the woman who wants to spend time with me wants to spend time with me when I'm gaming most of my time, that I'm not working, or otherwise. You know, that's not fair, and that's not a healthy relationship. It's a one-sided relationship, and I'm sorry, social and gender roles, I don't ascribe to that. So Read the article, see what you think about things. I'm not trying to make a positive assertion one way or another about gaming addiction, but I'm willing to believe that it does in some cases exist. But I think it could be overly prescribed or overly diagnosed. And that's just as bad as it not being diagnosed at all.